If you remember that night, it was a night heavy with melodies of change in the arena of the coup plotters. What happened that night? Soldiers moved in the shadows. Their boots were silent on the hot Nigerian soil. These soldiers had a dream. It was a dream to reshape Nigeria. But I hope you know, dreams can turn to dust before the sun rises. This is the story of the Orkar coup. A bold strike, a strike of revolution. But it came with a heavy price. It is the price of failure. It was in April 1990. A group of young military officers, led by Major Gideon Orkar. But behind the scene, they say the leader of the coup is Colonel Inyam. But Major Gideon Orkar announced the coup. He that announces the coup is not necessarily the leader of the coup, but he can also be the leader of the coup. That is not in contention now. So on the 22nd of April, 1990, this group of young military officers decided to take action. They were tired of corruption. They were tired of leaders who cared more for power than the people they governed. They believed Nigeria needed a fresh start. Their plan was simple: seize control, remove the government, and begin anew. On the 9th of April 22nd, 1990, they struck. Gunfire echoed in Lagos. Babangida ran helter-skelter. Tanks rode onto the streets. The rebels took over radio stations announcing their revolution to the nation. It's like we act for the people, they declared. No more oppression, no more lies. Does that remind you of the Nzogu coup of 1966? Somehow, both coups have been tagged revolutionary coups. Why? It's about the Gideon Orkar coup, military revolution, and the laws of motion. For a few hours, it seemed like victory was near for the coupists. But in a twist of fate, the course of history was redefined. It was the fall. Dreams came crumbling, and the coupists ran helter-skelter. It is about power. Who gets what? Why? If you listen to the coup speech delivered by Gideon Orkar, they detailed why they struck. It's a different coup. It is the only coup that stands out in the history of Nigeria. It stands out because the intention was to break up the country. These coupists were mainly from the minority zones of Nigeria. They refused dominance and they decided to strike. They almost got Babangida. They almost killed him. because they killed his ADC. Babangida escaped by the whiskers. Abacha rose to the challenge. Military revolution and the laws of motion. It's about power. It's about politics.
They almost got Babangida.
Yes. U.K Bello died through that coup. So many officers were lost.
Babangida survived it.
He survived it.
At this time, General Ladipo Dia was the GOC, General Officer Commanding of the 82 Division, Enugu.
Yes, very correct. When that coup occurred, you know, the way Nigeria Army was organized since 1976, Dimka coup, they now organize the military in such a way that it becomes very difficult for junior officers to be able to effectively take control of Nigeria. So Nigeria now have military divisions, different divisions. Each of these divisions are big, you know, within the division you have brigades. Within brigades you have battalions. Then between battalions you have platoons and the rest of it. So each division is so organized, so big enough that it could take on the whole country if need be. Because they have looked at the samples of what happened in the past, 2 military coups. So immediately that coup occurred, General Dia was already mobilizing his troops from Enugu to storm Lagos. Of course, after the coup was fueled by the troops in Lagos, there was no need for him to come down to Lagos again. But he had been making an attempt to come and defend the Nigerian state, because that was the pledge that he made to defend the integrity of Nigerian state.
He was loyal to the IBB government.
Well, you may say IBB government because he represented Nigeria at that time. He was an officer of Nigerian state, and the sovereignty of Nigerian state was under threat. And he has a mandate to defend it, and that was what he was planning to do. Of course, if you look at his action thereafter, you also see that his loyalty was really not to Babangida, was to the Nigerian state. Because at the first AF Armed Forces Really Council meeting, after that coup, it was the officer that rose up and said, look, yes, we have defeated people, we can be patting ourselves at the back for a good job, but there are fundamental issues that were raised by these boys. These issues must not be swept under carpet. We need to address them so that these things like this should not happen again. Of course, for that statement, he lost his command that day. He was removed as GOC that day.
By virtue of being the GOC,
yes,
automatically he had a membership of the Armed Forces Ruling Council.
Yes.
So when he was removed as GOC, he lost that position in the council.
He lost everything within the military. In fact, he was appointed what they call Director of Research and Development.
Military coup is like a sudden acceleration. You know, they come with bullets. That bullet is energy. So the pace of the bullet, as more bullets is sounding, there is commotion. So that's what you call sudden acceleration. And that sudden acceleration can overthrow a government quickly, depending on the firepower on both sides. At some point, the Nigerian military was able to resist the Oka guys. They mashed them with firepower, and those ones ran out of bullets. You see? So in that case, they didn't come with enough force because they ran out of bullets. They were now overpowered. The Babangida boys were now mobilizing from different barracks, taking charge. So that is the second law of motion explained. Reflect. Take a cup of water. While I take a cup of water, look at your notes again. If you have any questions, I'll open the phone line. You ask me. In this case, I am not your teacher. I am a learner. So let's go, as Bosun enjoys his time.